Hey everybody, good morning. It's Quinn, and today is Freemotion Fridays, and I'm sorry, I guess it was about a minute late. I was just checking a few things, trying to make sure that I've gotten my camera straight and everything else, and it seems like I don't, so I'm going to just make a little adjustment there. So if you can see me, if you can hear me, can you let me know? And I will go ahead and get started. I'm going to do one thing, check on my comments feed. So if you can hear me and you can see well, can you just let me know? That would be really helpful. Hi, good morning. I'm glad you're here. All right, let me just get a couple of things going, get the monitor set up so we can start. Oh. So I can tell it's going to be one of those days because my computer is saying I have no internet. But obviously I do because I'm on. So I think we'll just have to go with it. So it's going to be a little bit hard for me to read the comments this morning. I don't know why it's being so ornery. So our topic for today is I want us to play with the swirl and talk about, what are the unique features of it? How can we customize it? How can we decide where we want to start and where we want to end? And so I've just got a few little designs that we're going to do for that. So let me show you. This is just some scrap, and we'll start working with that. Let me get my chalk and we'll get started. You can always do these exercises on paper as well. I think that's always a good way to practice. So I just want to use a little bit of this space. If I make a swirl, right? So I'll just make one right here. Come in, we're going to swirl. And right from this position, we're just going to come back on the inside. Okay? One of the things that we can do with this one is either it's going to end up on the inside of the previous one, right, as we come back, or we can stretch it out and we could make it end in the same spot. Why does that matter? If I make it on the inside, it's pretty difficult to move to the next one, right? And then you're at your same spot. So if we want to make a line of them, for example, we're right here. How do we get over to the next one, right? So one idea I have, if we're using the swirl in the way that I just showed you, where we do the same shape and then we echo it essentially on the inside, if I'm going to end up on the inside, I want to maybe stretch this back so I'm on the same spot, right? So it's going to narrow out as it gets back to here. Then one way that I could progress along my line is I could jump over, right? And what this does is this creates space for the next one. So I can use that space and I can make this as long as I want. If I want this to be very, very regular, one of the ways that I can plan ahead for that is I can use something like a grid stencil, and then my dimension here and my visual space for it is already set, right? So you could make either the swirl come right around the middle of this and back to the dot, and then hop over and go right around that and back to the dot and move over. So a stencil like this can be a really great way to get everything nice and regular. It's not necessary. You don't have to have this. I literally could just make a little line, make a little line. I could split my border visually like that. So put a line in the middle and then split those in half, and then split those in half, etc. We don't need a grid, but if you want it to be super regular, a grid might be an easy way to get that. So here we went swirl, and, swirl, inside, hop over, and then we'll do the next swirl on the outside, and come in back to the same spot, and hop, and swirl, and on the inside and back. So let's go ahead and we'll set this up and we'll sew this one. Again, this is just my little chalk pen. And if I just want to get rid of these markings, I can just go like that. Okay, so there you go. I don't have any markings, but I can still use my reference, just like we said. I'm going to leave a little bit bigger space so I'm not right on the edge here, but we'll just kind of move it up a little bit. And so we'll just put a few marks. I can decide on the spacing, whatever I want. I'm in charge. And I can even decide on the height. So this would be something, if you have different border sizes that you like to work with, you should actually practice it based on the size of the borders that you like, or on the quilt that you're planning to put this on. Oh, darn it. I thought I was threaded up, but I'm not quite threaded up. Boy, you can tell I was not as ready. I'll tell you the truth. You know why I was not ready? My son came over this morning. And it was great seeing him. He's 28, and he just came over to have coffee with his mom. So I'll take it. All right, let's put this down. We'll get this threaded. Did I lose it? Oh, come on. There it is, right there. There we go. All right. Let's pull up our bobbin thread just like we always do. If this is the border right here, I could do my little hook to come in right there. So, you know, if you couldn't fit the swirl right here on the end, if this was butted up to another seam or another section, you can just hop over and make your swirl. But we'll just actually start on this reference line because I don't want to be too close to the edge right there. Oh, bobbin thread too. It's both of them today giving me trouble. I think we got it now. Here we go. So put my needle down. When I come back over from the bottom on the inside, what I want to do at that point is that's what's going to tie this off. So I'm not going to put anything in there right now. So let's just go ahead. We'll start sewing. And you can go as big as you want. The key to your swirl is try to make it smooth. And then we'll just come back and we'll grade right back to our stop point. Now this has that extra stitching right over the area that we already went on. So let's see if we can get in just a little tighter. Now, right here, I just want to make a nice gradual arc to my next spot. And again, the key to this, if you're looking ahead, think about how tall that you want this to be. So for example, if I had like a little line right here in my mind, you can make a line or not, but what I want is to be in the center and gradually come right over, right? So this is what I'm looking at to kind of keep those arcs all the same. I think that is a little bit challenging, I won't lie. That's something that I'm not perfect at. I always feel like my arcs don't always look the same. So then you're going to come out. So your swirl is going to be this outer part. And then we'll echo back and we're going to grade it back to the center so that we're right at the same spot. And then put our arc in right to the center of our marking. And then we'll wing out and our swirls on the outside. And then we'll come back and grade it right back to that center spot right there. And then we'll do our last little arc. And I don't need to tack this in, but I will. So let's cut it. We'll just show you what it looks like. So that little connector line has that feature of creating space for us and allowing our design to move forward. Both very important aspects of what we need in order to make our little swirls in a line, right? So of course, if I had a nice even line, I think this is a little wider here, but I love it, right? They're so fun. So if this was too open for you, right? Let me put my pen back up, my chalk pen. Let me grab that. We can always fill in the top, right? Even if this was the boundary, we could just pretend that we have the swirl right here and just come back and then like cut that off because we would essentially want that to be filled. Then we could just go like this. We can arc over, arc over, arc over like that. Like if this was just too much open space right there, you can just create something that will fill that in. We don't have to have this all open on the top. And this will add just a little bit of quilting. That may be more important if this space was bigger and the curl can't necessarily go wider, right? So you may have a bigger space here. So having some kind of swag echo over the top might be a good way to fill in the density of the quilting and even it out a little bit. Okay, so let's talk about another swirl, a different one. This one is where you're swirling back on the inside, right? And because that does not advance you in your design, you end at the same spot. We typically have to do something to advance. This is not the only idea. We could put a little curl right here, connected, a baby one, and make a hop, which would fill this in as well. Like if this is the design right here, let's draw out one more. We'll just put one more right up here because we can. We'll use the same reference lines. And I think this one is over there. Okay, so we make this swirl like that, come back on the inside. Well, we can make a little bitty one, right? But this one's going to have to come over the top, right, to get to the next one. So here's our inside swirl, back to our center position, and now we're going to have a travel swirl. We're going to make a little swirl, and we're going to come over the top and hop. So now we just changed it. We've created a way for us to move to the next one a little more smoothly because we're going over the top. So this is the inside one. And this next one, I like to call this one the ribbon, right? You're going to go over, and when you come back, you're going to go over the top and hop. So that is going to change it. Then we have a little fill in between, so there's not as much of that empty space. And again, we can still echo this, and we can actually use different echoes, like because this one's short, so then we can have a tall echo, then a baby echo, and then a tall echo. And that changes the design quite a bit. Oh, sorry. Yeah, so I'm in New Mexico. I don't know if you guys are aware of this, but we have had some hellish fires. And of course, Albuquerque, I'm not overly affected by it other than air quality, but people in our surrounding area have some pretty significant effects. So, hey, I pray for you. And I know that there's been a lot of community activism and support to try to provide some food, shelter, clothing, and things like that for our local area. So always try to be aware of what your local needs are. Subsidiarity is really important for us to help those in our local community. Okay, there's my pontificating for the day. We should all help each other. So big difference between what this looks like and this one looks like. This is a lot more flowery and a lot curlier, so this has got a much more romanticized look. This is a little bit more more contemporary. It's still swirly, but it doesn't quite have as much going on. So I want to show you that swirl a little bit just by itself. When we work the ribbon swirl, if we work it like this, right, when we tuck it in, we can change the shape. I'm going to do this one, and I'm just going to push straight back along this line, but I'm going to curve over the top. Now, I can end right at the same position like I did before, or I can do that curl and I can travel, right? I can widen this out here as much as I want to. I'm going to show you kind of what that could look like if we were doing a vertical column, right? So we'll kind of make this vaguely our center design, right? So here, curve back. This one's going to reach up and curve back and reach up and ribbon back and then come back. And at this point, if I had my ruler, I would very likely use this to come straight down. You can also make this curvy. It's no problem to make that curvy. So here we would go, same thing. Over the top is the ribbon. Reach this one up. Over the top. Reach up. Over the top. And reach up. And over the top. And here we can just put a little baby ribbon right at the top. Okay, so this is quite a bit different than the other one, And this can change based on how much you tuck this in. So I'll show you. This one is like almost the full circle, right? It's this one that's coming in right here. And then we're coming back over the top. But we can tuck the curl a little bit more. Like if we tuck it in more like this, then see what we can get. It's a little bit more of that curly Q on the tip. So just by tucking that in, this is a little bit more of a flat moon right here, whereas this has got sort of that whole curly Q, and that's just because we tucked the initial curl in tighter. So just by making small adjustments to your design, that's what you're gonna get. That's the difference that you'll see. Okay, so let's go ahead and we'll stitch this one out so you can see how we do it. I'm not going to try to follow those lines actually, because otherwise I'm going to get myself in trouble. Over the top and back to the center. This one has to reach out and arc a little taller and over the top and arc up, using the design below as your spacer. So I'm using the design below. I'm not following the chalk because I can't. It's hard. It's hard to follow the chalk. But what I'll do is I'll flip this over so that you can see the design. And, you know, if the design space is closing like this one is, I'll just reach up and I'll make a little baby one in there. Okay. Since I do have my ruler, if I needed this to be nice and clean, I can go ahead and clean up my design a little bit by letting all of those connect with my ruler to get down to the bottom. Okay. All right. So what do you think? Do you like that so far? There you go. You can see it right there. We'll flip it over. Let's go ahead and just do this side. So same thing. I'm just going to use my space, my visual space, tuck it in and come over the top. This one's going to reach. So as I'm reaching, I'm thinking about how tight do I need that to be? How much curl do I want it to have? Tucking it in more or less. Stretching it to fill the space. And maybe a little baby right here to fill that in. Okay, let me tack it and then we'll just flip it over so you can see. I think it is hard with the chalk always to see, but we have just basically gray thread on the back. And this is kind of white. There you go. So you can see this one kind of has a little bit more ribbon. Looks like I didn't quite cross over there as much as I wanted to. So little bits of that can change. And I think you can probably see the difference between the right side and the left side. I don't care. That's true, I think, for most people, that one side of your feather tends to look one way and the other side tends to look a little different. But definitely practice them both ways. That's important. All right. So let me show you the next one that we're going to do. We have another swirl. I love this one. And you can do it two different ways. You want to try which way seems the best to you. Okay. I find that I like it when I'm going to curl and I'm going to tuck in, and right there, that's the base of it. And now I'm going to make another little loop, like a little circle right there. And then this part is going to echo over, right? So again, we have that same thing. We're kind of back where we started. So what we're looking for when I want this, I want to jut out of the existing, right? I want this to look like one of those tiles. So make sure that you don't just kind of swoop into this. We want to exaggerate a little bit when we come in. We want to come away from the existing design to make that loop and then echo around. That's what's going to give you that part of the design. If we do it the other way, let me show you. If we're coming over the top of the design, right, then we want to make our circle there. and tuck it in, and then follow. So it's going to look just a little bit different, but there's two ways. You can either come from the inside or come from the outside. And I think that you could play with that and decide which one works best for you. So let me erase this, and we're going to use this space right here and make a little design with that. I don't want to use up all my space, right? So let's make a little square. We're going to show you how you can use those swirls that tend to come right back to the center, and we'll make that into a little design. So this is a swirl motif that we're going to try, and we're going to use the same design that we just showed you. We're going to start in the center, and I'm going to arc my swirl around and tuck it in. And then when I get there, I'm going to put that loop in there and tuck the loop in, and then come back, right? So we'll go ahead. Oh, wrong direction. Look it right here. Don't go that way. Go the same direction so that they'll all tuck into each other. So tuck and then come back out. And so if this one is going that way, this one needs to go like this. Swirl, tuck it in tight. That's your loop right there. And then you can come back like that. Tuck it in and then follow it back out. Now, I love this. I think it looks awesome, but maybe we want to fill in these spaces. So if that happens, just make a little smaller one on this side, like this. Tuck it in and come back. And then whatever space you have, that's what this one's going to fill in, right? And then tuck it back. And then a little one on this side. And tuck it back. And these can all work from the center. And I think it looks awesome. And it's okay if they're different sizes. Make one bigger, make one smaller. The benefit of that is it's going to look intentional, because if we can't make them all perfectly the same size, it's better that they're different sizes because I find it hard to do that. So let's go ahead. I've got some fabric. We'll sew that one out. Let me put it up here, and let's mark a square so we have a nice pretty shape. Okay. Yeah, I love them facing. I agree. That is something that I use a lot for borders too. And again, I try to make them a little bit irregular so that if they're not perfectly sized, then I don't have to worry about that because I can't worry about that. It's too hard. All right, let me get my square. And we'll maybe do 2 different sizes, and we'll do a little variation because I have one more variation of this. So we'll put one square over here. This one's kind of big. So we'll do maybe a big one and a small one just to show that you need different sizing because we have different designs. And sometimes if the design's really, really big, we may need to fill in some additional material, additional quilting, so that the design has balance. Okay, so we'll just put a little chalk mark right there and right there. So we're basically just making some quadrants, and the quadrants are nice because they help us to visualize the design. I can actually even just kind of go like this right here if I need to. And that way, if I'm trying to center a swirl, I can use this line. Like if I wanted to center it right here in this space, this line kind of helps me do that. And I think that when you're training, I think it's good to have all these extra lines, but after a while, maybe you'll get more comfortable and you won't need them. So let's go ahead and sew. Let me check one thing. All right, I'm going to just make one more setting adjustment here. So this design is going to end up with a little bit more stitching in the center. So that's just something for us to consider. I want that first swirl. This is the one that we just did on the chalk. And we could make the swirl go this way, or we can elongate it. The way that we did it on the other one is we use that longer line of the diagonal. So we'll do that. And I'm trying to fill this space evenly. So I kind of want half of the swirl on each side, right? So we'll go over the top, just gently wing out a little bit. Tuck it in and make your little ball and then come out. I can use the foot as my guide and I'll just grade it right back to the center. Okay, so making sure that we're going the same way, I want to come on this side of my diagonal and put my swirl in. Make my little ball and then come back in. Right to the center there. Okay, now I can cut these, get these out of my way. So let me just show you real quick. Again, making sure that we're going to be coming in on this side as we make the swirl, so we kind of create that same pretty arc right there. So we're just going to kind of swirl out a little bit so we can make that loop. Tuck in the ball right there and then come back and grade it back to our center. So when I do this, I have a lot of trouble actually making sure I'm going the right direction. I tend to go the wrong direction. I tend to like flip the next one over. Well, if that happens, you can just make your own individual changes of the design, but you know, I want it to be a swirl. So I'm gonna try to make these ones all go the same way. Little ball, and then coming back out and grading back to my center. Now, you can see right here we have a lot of space, right? So when I put that next one in, I'm going to try to fill that space in. Now, I can decide maybe this one is the one that comes all the way to the boundary because these don't. Whatever, you decide, right? Or I can fill it in a different way. I don't even have to make it the same. Let's go ahead and do the one that we showed you. I'm going to kind of go this way on my swirl. And we'll kind of try to make it meet. There's the ball. And then we'll just echo back. I love it so far. I love it. So now we'll go the other way, this way, kind of coming right off of this one. And then looking ahead and trying to fill that swirl in a little bit, make the ball, and then coming back. Okay. I always want to keep you kind of in the know here, so let's go. This is I think it looks a little bit bigger, so I'm not going to try to fill in every single bit of that. We'll put something else in there. I'm going to arc this in a little closer so that we can get the ball, and then we'll echo right back to the center. All right, and then one more. So we'll kind of curve in towards this guy, make the ball, and then echo back out. All right, and then let's just do some crazy swirls. We'll just put a little swirl this way and come back, and maybe we'll just put a little loop around him. Okay, so same thing over here. Put a little curl, coming back on the inside, and then we'll just put a little loop around him. So same thing, going the same direction. A little curl, coming back on the inside, and then a little loop around him. So these little internal parts right here, however big we want them, whatever space we want to take up, we can. Let's go ahead and tack it off. Love it. What do you think? It's kind of cute, don't you think? Let's come out so you can see it a little better. There we go. Right? No, it's not perfectly perfect. It doesn't need to be. This is a high contrast, but I think it looks pretty. If I had this on my quilt, would I be saying to myself, oh, I don't like it, it's not a robot? We have to let ourselves be, you know, fun and artistic, and the rest of the fill that we put in there, that'll make a difference. Like, you know, I'd like this one to be a little swirlier, but that's maybe that lefty side, you know. more practice is going to make this smoother. And some of the techniques that we did with the stencil project where we did the freezer paper can help you practice getting the design to be more symmetrical if you want that. I'm okay with mine being a little fun, a little floaty. Perfection is a little too hard for me. I already know that that's not my gift, so I'm okay with it being just fun and flirty and moving along, floating on its own ocean. So anyway, let's recap and then we'll probably end for today. So, I had one idea. Let's do one more idea. We didn't really do kind of a border, so I have one more idea that I have set up. So let's make a little border for ourselves. And we'll just do this as one more idea. Let me get my longer ruler. Hang on just a sec. We'll do a 3-inch border this time. All right, and let's see, we'll kind of mark it off. I just need a visual so I can see where 3 is. And then I'll be able to just kind of mark it randomly. There we go. Okay, so using this kind of as my visual guide, we'll kind of make squares like that. Okay, so the design for this one is using several of the things that we talked about. The first one is we're going to make the swirl on the inside, so it'll be filling up this space, right? So I'll just kind of use this as the visual to draw. Okay, from this point, we're going to make our swirl, and we can tuck it in or we can make a ball. You can do it however you want, but we're going to come back to the same spot, right? So any of the swirls that we showed you, we can do the ribbon, you can do the inside, or you can do this sort of ball shape. You pick. And now we're going to bump over the top. 1, 2, 3, whatever you want. I don't care. You can do as many of these as you want. When you get about to right there, we're just going to make something that will bring us to here. You can decide. I can do something like this. I can do just a straight line. I can do whatever I want. This is something you customize right here. Whatever you want to put in here to get you to your next swirl, that's up to you, okay? So play with this part and you can embellish that or make it whatever you want to do. So then if this is our next one, right? Same thing. We're now at this spot. So we're going to try to, again, fill up the space. There's my ball. And then I can come back. And then same thing. I'm going to start making my little loops. 1, 2, 3, I want to come to about right here, okay? So I'll do a different one here. I can just hop down and I can make the next one. I don't have to make it fancy, but I can make it as fancy as I want to. So let's just put a few of those in here so you can see what that'll look like. Again, I want to emphasize, practice the design at the scale that you want to sew it, okay? So if I'm sewing this and I'm practicing it at this 3 inches, but I want to put it in a 1.5 inch border, ooh, it's a lot different. This one has to stretch quite a bit further in order to get us the look that we want. So as we're going to come out a little bit, fill it up, but not too much because we have something else we're putting in there, right? So there's my ball, coming back on the same line, and I can come up just a little bit so I can start making my loops. And one more. And here I can just do something like this, and I can just come back. So I'll just show you what it looks like right there. I guess we'll do it upside down. I think you'll be able to see it better. Okay, so same thing. Ball, back to my start, and then 1. This one was probably a little too big. I took up some of that space that I needed right there. See right here, I'm real close to the line. So I'll need to think about how much space do I need right there as I'm going forward, because I kind of closed it right there. So here, let's just come in and we'll do a little swirl. And then we'll just hop back over to there. So now, this time I'm going to be a little bit more aware of my space. I got a little overzealous with my swirl. Ball. Coming back to our center spot. Travel up a little bit so I have some room. 2, 3, 4, and then all right, so you can see that you can just make some fun little decoration here. And right here, if we get down to the bottom, let's do one more and then I'll show you how we can fill in maybe the bottom a little bit. Okay, so we're on the bottom, so we can come back along the bottom if we want to, and we can do whatever we want. And if you want to put a little swirl right in there, okay, and now we're kind of echoing this part right here. Put a little swirl in there. And come back and echo back to your center spot, and we can fill that in with a little swirl right there, and then a little echo. I'm using the foot as my spacer right there. And then again, if we wanted to put anything on the top to fill in any of this space right there, you could echo, or you could just do some echoing right there as well if you wanted to. Let's just cut that real quick. I'll turn it, because I think visually it's kind of like that, right? Oh, doesn't that look cool? Right there, so you can see it really good. They're kind of fun, right? A little more quilting, just fill it in, right? It's all gonna be great. So those are just some fun ways you can play with the swirl. The big thing on that last lesson is whatever connection that you want to make for the design, that's totally up to you. It's at your discretion. You can always do just some kind of little straight hop. You can do a little swirly, or you can do a straight line, or whatever you want, a little spiral, circle, something like that. And that can help you make those transitions between your elements, right? So then all these chalk lines and everything will go away. In fact, here, I'll just wipe them off. So then we won't have all of those in our visual field. See, once there's no lines, it looks fine. It looks awesome, right? Okay, so that was today's lesson. That was our swirls. I hope you had fun with that and play with it. Again, practice in the size that you need it, and practice in various sizes so you can do the work in different sizes. And think about if you need it to all start in the same spot, or if you don't, how you can just shift over to your new start point to always make space. If you want work to be very, very regular and even in sizing, you can use a stencil grid to make sure that you have some reference lines to build the design as you want to. And then the 3 different swirls that we did were one where you're swirling on the inside, okay? One where you're swirling from the outside. You can swirl on the outside like that. One where you're swirling with the ribbon, which is over the top. And one with the ball. So make your ball and then come back in. And those all have a little bit of a different look, more of a ribbon, the ball design, and then you can tuck these in again as much as you want to create the curlicue or not. If you come in and then you come back out, you're going to kind of get like a little loopy right there in the center. All right, so if you try it, I want to see it because I want to see what you're doing because I'm so nosy. So send me pictures because I want to see it. All right, so hopefully you guys will have a great week. I'll see you on Sunday, and then I will be off probably the next weekend. So, oh, wait a minute. It's Mother's Day. Yeah, I think I will still be on because I'll be traveling a lot this week. If you are doing your Mother's Day thing, totally love to hear that. I want you to do that. You should be doing that and not watching videos. But you can always come back and watch it later. So that will be great. I'll have it available for you. Do I know my topic? I'd be lying if I said I do. I don't. But I'm thinking about it. I'm planning. So I will have something fun and interesting. It will be the 2nd of the month. I did one last week, which was, I think, the 1st. And so I think this will be my long arm weekend. It's for those people that have the long arm. If your friends have a long arm, make sure you share that information with them so that they can watch it. Have a great day. Bye-bye, you guys. Yes, happy Mother's Day to all the amazing moms in the world. All right, many blessings. Have a good week. Bye-bye.